Breaking Bad premiered on January 10th, 2008. While its initial ratings were modest, the show gradually transformed into a cultural phenomenon over 5 seasons, fueled by word of mouth and the rising trend of binge-watching. At its core, it tells the story of a mild-mannered chemistry teacher who, after being diagnosed with lung cancer, risks everything he's built to ensure his family's financial security after his death. Yet, like all great television dramas, the narrative is far from simple. It deepens and evolves with each season, each one somehow surpassing the last. Frequently hailed as one of the greatest TV series ever made, Rolling Stone ranked it third on its list of the 100 best shows between Mad Men and The Wire. Here are 25 facts you might not know about Breaking Bad. Many networks turned it down, including HBO. In 2016, news broke that Vince Gilligan was developing a limited series about Jim Jones for HBO. Ironically, the same network had once rejected his pitch for Breaking Bad. During a 2011 interview, Gilligan recalled that pitching the show to HBO was the worst meeting I've ever had. The trouble with Hollywood, both in film and TV, is that people will leave you hanging for days, weeks, or even months, Gilligan said. That's exactly what happened at HBO. It was the worst meeting I've ever had. The woman we were pitching to couldn't have been less interested, not just in my story, but in whether I even lived or died. HBO wasn't the only one to pass. Showtime, TNT, and FX all declined Breaking Bad as well, each for their own reasons. The network originally wanted Matthew Broderick for the role. It's hard to picture anyone but Bryan Cranston as Walter White. But when Breaking Bad was first in development, Cranston wasn't yet a household name, and AMC wanted a recognizable star. The network was especially interested in casting either Matthew Broderick or John Cusack for the lead role. We all still pictured Bryan as the dad from Malcolm in the Middle, shaving his body hair. A former AMC executive told The Hollywood Reporter, recalling the hesitation to cast him. We were like, really? Isn't there anybody else? However, Vince Gilligan had previously worked with Cranston on an episode of The X-Files and knew he had the depth and emotional range the part demanded. After AMC executives watched that episode, they agreed. We needed someone who could be intense and frightening, yet still convey a sense of humanity, so that when he dies, the audience feels compassion for him, Gilligan explained. Bryan nailed it. Jesse Pinkman was never meant to survive season 1. Although Breaking Bad ultimately centered on the volatile partnership between Walter White and Jesse Pinkman, Jesse's character wasn't originally intended to be a long-term part of the story. It's often been said that he was supposed to die in episode 9 and that the 2007 to 2008 Writers Guild of America strike inadvertently saved him. However, Vince Gilligan clarified in 2013 that Jesse's importance to the show was recognized much earlier. The writers' strike didn't actually save him, Gilligan explained. By episode 2, we all knew, our amazing directors, our producers, everyone, that Aaron Paul was incredibly talented and a joy to work with. It became obvious very quickly that killing off Jesse would have been a massive mistake. When asked in a Reddit AMA how he would have felt if Jesse had been killed off during the first season, Aaron Paul joked, "My career would be over, and I would be a sobbing mess watching Breaking Bad every week." The writers' strike changed the season 1 story, and it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. The Writers Guild strike ultimately shortened Breaking Bad's first season, forcing Vince Gilligan to cut 2 planned episodes that would have accelerated Walter White's transformation into Heisenberg and made it far more violent. Looking back, Gilligan was grateful for the change. We had outlined every episode before the show even aired, and we had no idea how it would be received, Gilligan told Creative Screenwriting. When you don't know how the audience will react, you tend to go a little more sensational to make things exciting and keep people watching. Those last 2 episodes would have been huge and would have taken the characters much further than we were ready for. It would have been difficult to walk that back in season 2. He continued, "We didn't just move those 2 episodes to the next season. We scrapped them entirely and started fresh. We decided to build the story more slowly, and I think that was the right call. Everyone's seen shows that push things too far too soon, and there's no coming back from it. For me, the trick is to do as little as possible with the characters while still keeping them compelling. It's a delicate balancing act." The DEA assisted. They even showed Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul how meth is made. Given the show's subject, the creators notified the Drug Enforcement Administration about the project and invited their involvement. We informed them, with all due respect and consideration, that we're doing this show, and would you like to be a part of it in a consultancy in order to make sure that we get it right? Cranston told High Times. The DEA could have declined, but instead provided chemists as consultants who taught Aaron Paul and Bryan Cranston the real steps involved in making crystal meth. The science is accurate, but not perfect, and that was intentional. Dr. Donna Nelson, a chemistry professor at the University of Oklahoma, joined Breaking Bad as a science advisor midway through the first season, tasked with ensuring the show's science was as accurate as possible without making it unsafe. I don't think any popular show gets it 100% right, but that's not the goal, Nelson told Mental Floss in 2013. The goal isn't to be a science education program, it's to be a popular show. So some creative license is always necessary to keep it interesting. Especially for a show about drug making, accuracy had limits. Walter White's signature is his blue meth, Nelson explained. In reality, it wouldn't be blue. It would be colorless. But this isn't a science class. It's a fantasy. Vince Gilligan did an amazing job getting most of the science right, and I'm thrilled with that. I think Vince Gilligan is a genius, and you can quote me on that. The iconic blue meth is actually rock candy. Whenever Walter and Jesse's signature blue meth appears on screen, it's really blue rock candy. Specifically, it comes from the Candy Lady, a boutique candy store in Albuquerque. The store even offers a full line of Breaking Bad-inspired treats under their The Bad Candy Lady collection. Gus Fring's role was originally much smaller. At first, Giancarlo Esposito wasn't eager to take on the role of Gus Fring, which was initially a minor part. I had not seen Breaking Bad, but my manager told me it was his favorite show, Esposito told Time. My wife suggested I give it a try, but it was just a guest spot, and I've done a lot of those. I wanted to develop a character. I did one episode and then agreed to do 2 more, with the condition that I wanted to be part of a filmmaking family. When Vince Gilligan offered him another 7 episodes for season 3, Esposito requested a larger role. After some negotiating, I ended up doing 12 episodes, he said. I wanted to create a character who became essential to the show. Over time, I realized I had become part of the Breaking Bad family. Vince told me I changed the game and raised the bar for the series. I'm proud of that. But I could only achieve it because of the depth of the writing and the chemistry between Bryan Cranston and me. Their writing inspired me to craft someone who was polite, menacing, and poignant. Giancarlo Esposito drew inspiration from Edward James Olmos. In the mid-1980s, Giancarlo Esposito appeared in a few guest roles on Miami Vice. That experience left a lasting impression, leading him to model Gus Fring after Edward James Olmos's character, Lieutenant Martin Castillo. Eddie did very little, yet he was extremely convincing, Esposito told the Toronto Sun. I also thought he was a bit flat, but the minimalism in his performance was very effective. Compared to Philip Michael Thomas and Don Johnson, who could sometimes be a bit self-important while acting, Eddie was simply doing his job. I wanted Gus to operate in that same understated, controlled mode. Gilligan received help from the Walking Dead team for Fring's final episode. Gus Fring's final scene remains one of the most unforgettable visuals in the series, and the production brought in experts in gore to achieve it. We did get fantastic assistance from the prosthetic effects team at The Walking Dead, Gilligan told the New York Times. I want to give a shout out to Greg Nicotero and Howard Berger and their company KNBEFX because their shop created that effect. It was then enhanced by visual effects supervisor Bill Pulaski and his team, who digitally integrated a 3-dimensional sculpture from KNBEFX with the live-action footage. You can actually see into and through Gus's head in that final reveal. It's a mix of brilliant makeup and visual effects, and it took months to complete. Yes, Aaron Paul says bitch frequently, but likely not as much as you think. Although every Jesse Pinkman impression seems to end with bitch, one tally shows that Paul actually says the word 54 times across the entire series. Considering there are 62 episodes, that's fewer than many fans might expect. Paul launched a Yo Bitch app. Even if the previous count seems low, Jesse Pinkman's signature phrase became so closely associated with Aaron Paul that in 2014, he released an app called Yo Bitch. Walter's car wash boss is a real-life chemist. Marius Stan, who played Bogdan, Walter's boss at the car wash, was largely unknown to viewers because Breaking Bad marked his acting debut, including his famously expressive eyebrows. Coincidentally, Stan is a trained chemist in real life. According to a Reddit AMA, he is a senior computational energy scientist at Argonne National Laboratory, which is part of the U.S. Department of Energy, and a senior fellow at the University of Chicago's Computation Institute. Walter White's alter ego is inspired by a real person. Walter White's criminal persona, Heisenberg, pays homage to Werner Heisenberg, the Nobel Prize-winning physicist who formulated the uncertainty principle. Heisenberg's iconic hat originated from practical needs. Heisenberg's pork pie hat, now synonymous with Walter White's darker persona, actually began for a very practical reason. After Bryan shaved his head, he kept asking me, "Can I have a hat?" Because his head was cold, explained Kathleen DeToro, the show's costume designer. I would ask Vince, and he kept saying no. Jesse wore the hats. Eventually, Vince said, "I think there's a place." It started with Bryan wanting a hat, me asking Vince, and then Vince figuring out where it would make sense in the story. That's when he truly becomes Heisenberg. For fans who want their own, the hat was made by Gorin. The White's house has become a tourist destination, and its roof has been pelted with a lot of pizza. Although Walter White's fictional address is 308 Negro Arroyo Lane, the exterior shots were filmed at a private residence in Albuquerque. That house turned into a popular tourist stop, and some fans, eager to reenact the scene in which Walter flings an enormous pizza onto the roof, repeatedly tried to replicate it, leaving the homeowner to deal with a constant mess. In 2015, Vince Gilligan publicly asked fans to stop tossing pizzas onto the property. "There is nothing original or funny or cool about throwing a pizza on this lady's roof," Gilligan said. "It's been done before. You're not the first. And if I catch you doing it, I will hunt you down," added Jonathan Banks, channeling Mike Ehrmantraut. Cranston nailed the pizza throw in a single take. Regarding that legendary pizza scene, Bryan Cranston performed the throw himself, and remarkably, he got it right on the very first take. Gilligan described it as a one-in-a-million shot. Tuco accidentally gave Jesse a concussion. A fight scene between Jesse and Tuco, Raymond Cruz, got unexpectedly serious when Cruz accidentally knocked Aaron Paul unconscious. Yeah, Raymond Cruz, who played Tuco, gave me a concussion during the episode Grilled, where Tuco takes Walt and Jesse to his shack in the middle of nowhere, where we meet the famous Uncle Tio, Paul explained in a Reddit AMA. Tuco throws Jesse through a screen door, and if you watch closely, my head gets caught in the wooden frame, flipping me onto my stomach while the door splinters. Raymond thought I was acting, so he continued, kicked me in the side, picked me up over his shoulder, and threw me against the house. In reality, I was basically unconscious. I kept pleading with him to stop. The next thing I know, I woke up to a flashlight in my eyes from our medic. I jumped up acting like nothing happened, though I appeared drunk and kept saying, "Let's finish the scene." But then my eyes started swelling shut, and they took me to the hospital. Just another typical day on the set of Breaking Bad. Jane's death was the toughest scene for Paul to film. During a Reddit AMA, Aaron Paul revealed that Jane's death was the most challenging scene for him. "I honestly think the hardest scene for me to do was when Jesse woke up and found Jane lying next to him dead," he said. "Seeing Jane through Jesse's eyes that day was incredibly emotional for all of us. When it was over, I was relieved because I truly felt I was living those tortured moments with Jesse." The scene was difficult for Bryan Cranston as well, who reportedly spent 15 minutes crying once at filming wrapped. Mike's death was emotionally tough for everyone. Reflecting on his final scene, Jonathan Banks said, "The crew on set that day all wore black armbands. There are a lot of friends on that crew. It was an emotional day, to say the least. Lots of tears. A tough day, brother." Jesse's teeth still bother Gilligan. When asked if he had any regrets about the show or its storylines, Vince Gilligan admitted one. "One thing that's always bothered me, looking back over the entire series, is that Jesse's teeth were a little too perfect. Considering all the beatings he took and the fact that he was using meth, which is brutal on your teeth, he'd probably have terrible teeth in real life." Warren Buffett admits respect for Walter White's business skills. A fan of the series, Warren Buffett attended the 5th season premiere. On the red carpet, he praised Walter White's entrepreneurial abilities, calling him a great businessman and adding, "He's my guy if I ever have to go toe-to-toe with anyone." The series has 62 episodes, a number with special significance. Across its 5 seasons, Breaking Bad aired a total of 62 episodes. This number wasn't random. The 62nd element on the periodic table is samarium, which is used in the treatment of various cancers, including lung cancer. The show's final death count is impressive. Even if you underestimated how often Jesse said bitch, the total number of deaths across the series is staggering: 270. BuzzFeed compiled a detailed breakdown of some of the most memorable fatalities. In 2016, a real-life meth cook named Walter White was wanted by authorities. In 2016, a 55-year-old man named Walter White topped the most wanted list in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, for producing and selling meth. While he wasn't a teacher, other real-life cases have mirrored the fictional Walter White's criminal path. In 2012, chemistry teacher William Duncan was arrested for selling meth, and in 2011, 74-year-old math professor Irina Christie was caught running a meth lab. And there you have it. 25 intriguing facts about Breaking Bad, a show that started as a quiet idea and became one of the greatest television masterpieces ever made. From near-missed casting choices to one-in-a-million scenes, from real chemistry to emotional breakdowns behind the camera, every detail helped turn Breaking Bad into the legend it is today. Even years after the final episode, the story of Walter White still lingers, a haunting reminder of how far someone can go when they've got nothing left to lose. If you enjoyed diving into the world of Breaking Bad, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more deep dives into your favorite shows and the stories behind them. Thanks for watching, and remember, I am the one who knocks.